never really been able to communicate with. Let me get my zipper up. That's humiliating. All right, so I was a nice person, and I was destroyed by Donald Trump and the ex-governor Susana Martinez, who was DA for like 10 or 15 years of New Mexico, and by my parents, and basically most of the people that I went to high school with. Now, why did they do this? So this story is going to be long and very sad and painful for me, but it's you guys got to see the truth. I was gonna clean up and shave or try to clean up some of the cigarette butts or whatever else, but this is what my form of PTSD is. I'm a non-military PTSD, which they just don't hand out to anybody. But here it is. I did 3 years of lockdown. This is what it does to somebody. It makes me not be able to work because I know that Donald Trump and Susana Martinez, which I'll get into, put me in prison illegally for 4.5 years in 2 different stints, and I did 3 years of lockdown, and I was abused constantly by the staff, and so I've been out of prison. I don't know anybody. All right, I don't talk to my family. My parents won't give me my aunt and uncles, cousins' numbers. Trying to get in touch with them, but they're all either in on this BS or they're just scared to do something. So I smoke tobacco. This is a pipe. This is tobacco. For you smokers out there that are spending too much money, this cost $6. This lasted me a month and a half. I smoke a pack a day. Cures the cost of smoking right there. So, all right. So I feel like that part in the other guys where he's, all right, tell us your story. All right, well, it's important to go from this point, and then I'm going to have to jump forth and slowly take it back. And that's kind of the situation. I have 30 years of abuse from these people. So you say, why is that happening? Okay, at 9 years old, I caught the worst mass murder in America's history. That did something to my memory core. It was around 8 or 9, maybe 7. I jumped the fence, couldn't get the straps off the last guy that was being abused, tortured, and ended up screwing up my brain. So half my memory core, I think I have the same personality, just access to different memories, which now have merged because they've been poisoning me and shock therapy and so many different medications and stuff that, and just thinking in lockdown for 2 years, I was able to start putting these things together. Why didn't it happen the first time? I don't know. Okay, so that's a little bit of a early thing that happened at Elephant Butte. The guys next door neighbors to my aunt and uncle, Ken and Kathy Barnicoat. So what happened around the same time is Bill Gates, Wozniacki, and Jobs had a shop in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Nobody really knows that. The birthplace of the computer was here in genius Albuquerque, New Mexico. So I went into the shop after a soccer game with my dad, and he has a master's in business, and I hate him. Let's just leave it at that. You'll see why very quickly. So they had all these computers, all this junk everywhere, and a couple tables, like not like weird tables. They were the cheap kind of tables. You could tell these guys were barely struggling by. And Gates accuses me of breaking a computer that I was just looking at. It was an opened up computer. He comes over and looks at it. Well, what'd you do? You broke it. You broke it. And then Wozniacki comes out. I broke it. Shut up. They'll both remember that. So they said, all right, we heard you're a really smart kid. If you can figure this out, you can be a wealthy kid for the rest of your life, a wealthy person. And so they said, all right, this hard drive holds more than enough memory, but it's way too slow. This type of hard drive is more than fast enough, but it doesn't hold enough memory. What should we do? Which one should we use? And I said, well, can this fast one erase its memory fast? And they said, yeah, instantaneous. And I said, well, why don't you just have this memory talk to this memory? So my dad was a master's in business. That's how RAM and hard drive started. So that's what the golden patent is, the most lucrative patent the world has ever even imagined and will ever probably be, was every single computer that was ever made, every single thing that used a hard drive and a RAM, random access memory, I got a cut of. I never got that cut. My dad decided to divert it from me, Britney Spears style, by saying that much money for an 18-year-old was too much money for him to handle. They never bothered to tell me, but they did bother to tell every single person that I went to high school with. So these little scumbags, Micah Melnikoff, Caesar Duran, they'll back this whole thing up. All you have to do is ask them. Put them on a stand and ask them. And they will have to tell the truth because there's so much evidence. So what their little plan was with Susana Martinez and Donald Trump, who, by the way, I had an altercation with at 19 years old back in 98, and he hurt himself severely, moron. They decided to hatch the plan to divert the money from me and essentially pay every single Republican just to be Republicans. So now all you Republicans out there that run your mouth on the liberals not being able to converge and not being able to deal with society and not being able to keep up, now you all know where you get your little kickbacks from. Where every time one of you fail, you get that little Republican infinite amount of money that they created back in 1995. 97 is when I graduated. You get that absurd welfare net that the liberals don't get. And that is what's been fueling your fascist agenda for the last 30 years. So, all right, so that's good to get out. Okay. So now some of the things that happened is the class of 97, Valley High School, Albuquerque, New Mexico, has an unbelievably large amount of millionaires. You could look at the Mosier twins, which then followed me the fraternity house and destroyed it. The sorority house across the street is the sorority house of my mom and the governor, Susana Martinez. Susana Martinez used to speak at the sorority house every Monday night. My mom was house mom, which she's now lying about. And Susana Martinez started indoctrinating the sorority girls. So they ended up putting rape charges on every single fraternity house at UNM, and all 10 of the fraternity houses went under. All 4 of the sorority houses are still there. So an inordinate amount of millionaires from those situations. By the way, they gave Susana $1.5 billion, even though New Mexico has gone straight into the ground in the last 25 years. Yeah, she runs a charity, the Daniels Fund, which is disgusting. Yeah, let's give somebody that completely destroyed this state $1.5 billion as a bonus. Okay, that makes sense. Whatever. So the Espanol Chamber of Commerce is all loaded up with family members. They went to high school with people that I went to high school with. The that horrible pedophile murder sex cult Archdiocese of Santa Fe, they're also involved. So that was the church that Susana Martinez went to as a kid. And it's Martinez Town. It's in Martinez Town. The church that's in Albuquerque is. So now you know. So what these Mexican families have done, and they're not Mexican families. These aren't your border illegal immigrants. These are established Mexican families. All right, they all have these huge gatherings. They know which families can hang out with which families. They know who all the drug dealers are, who all the DAs, cops, judges are, and how it all fits together that they don't burn each other. So that's what they've done out here in New Mexico. And what they do is they just find, lower income people to just run the drugs from Mexico. And if you have 10 cops and 10 people stationed at certain situations, you can just run those drugs as much as you want. And that's what they did. So now we have meth heads they've also indoctrinated military people into doing meth and heroin. You'll just see them walking up and down Central. They get full SSI benefits, full state benefits, plus they get kickbacks from the military benefits. They can just sit on their ass and do meth and heroin all day. And that's what's going on in New Mexico. Okay, so here we go. I busted out a couple high school people. Let's drop some female names. Christy Lajeunesse, who I'm going to have a story with Dr. Worm. Dr. Worm is probably QAnon. Remember all those anonymous guys? Lulsec? Lulsec was in Las Cruces, New Mexico. They gave all of the Lulsec guys passes to essentially join this crime family. They got the FBI in New Mexico involved too. So I've been like constantly harassed and entrapped by these people for literally 20 years. One of the more brutal ones was Katie Sepich. a girl that I was going to date sometime around 2003, 2004, 2005 maybe, but 2004 sounds about right. And she was brutally raped and murdered. They apparently found evidence of me on her. And also, I had been going to her restaurant because I was about to start dating her. I literally, the last time we saw each other was in front of 20, 30, too many people for us to exchange numbers. Otherwise, it was obvious that that's what we were going to do. A week later, they murdered her. I found out 2 months later. And the private investigators from the family are the ones that cleared me, not the FBI. The FBI kept me as their lead suspect for 5 years. The family investigators came to my house sometime, I think a week later after she had been killed, and they questioned me, and I was like, I was at a casino, dude. That night I was at the casino. And so they went, checked the casino records. So now, of course, if you have a president and a governor, they're going to be able to erase all that. But nevertheless, it's the truth. So I was at a casino till 3 in the morning at 240 miles away up at Ruidoso. So they weren't able to knock me up with that. And by the way, the guy that was caught finally 6 years later was getting money from New Mexico. So, and he was caught in Louisiana, I believe. All right, so 11 minutes of jabbering so far. All right, I'll try to keep it short, simple. So what they decided to do is they really needed to back up the schizophrenia, paranoid schizophrenia thing, because that's how they initially stole the money from me, Britney Spears style. Said I was too out of control and crazy. So they just kept trying to propagate it, kept trying to propagate it. I mean, I have entrapment situations going all the way back to college. For example, at me and a guy, what was his name? We went down to a sorority house off Omega. We were invited over there, and you're never allowed in sorority houses ever, like unaccompanied or anything. And they start getting him to do panty raid. So they tell him to do it. They tell him the door to do it. He goes up and brings down the panties and laughing, giggling. And the 3 girls, one was the vice president, one was a girl that we went to high school with, because the guy was a year older than me, and so was the girl a year older than me. I went to a dance with her, never kissed her. He ended up having a sexual relationship with her before that, and so they were trying to frame both of us. And so then they tried to get me to go up there and do it, and I was like, whatever. And they're like, just go. All right, whatever, I'll go up and get some panties, whatever. Are we gonna have sex or something? I mean, this is not child play. This is 2 19, 20-year-olds thinking about, all right, I've already dated, I've already gone to a dance with you, kind of thing, a formal gathering. Now there might be a sexual situation, 4 days later. So it's not out of the question, not absurd thinking. So I go up there and I go up to the dresser and I open it and I go, whatever, they told me exactly where to go. And I look in the window, the mirror that's right up above the dresser, and I see that there's a girl sleeping right behind me. And this is 10 o'clock on like a Friday or Saturday night. And I was like, what the fuck? And I realize that they were entrapping us on a panty raid. So I go, he comes up, what the heck was his name? He comes up, he's giggling, he's all crazy, and the weird thing was I was younger than him, so he had like the adult aspect on me from being in high school as a year older. But whenever we get to the fraternity thing, I had already pledged the semester before, and or the year before, and the semester before, he ends up having to be like a pledge underneath me, which was a weird situation. But in this situation, I was like, yelled at him. I was like, dude, you're gonna get us goddamn arrested. So we run out the house. Of course, the 3 girls are missing. They disappeared. And so that's just one of 100 different things. I gave a succinct story about an entrapment situation. And those kind of things, whenever you build up 1 or 2, oh, it's a little cheeky fun. But whenever you do hundreds to somebody, and I'm bobbing and weaving for the next 20 years, and I can't get a single police report, and I tell a story like that, oh, it's not that big a deal. Yes, it is. They're trying to get me on a sexual charge. Trying to build up a database to be able to say that they stole these billions of dollars from me, to justify doing that. And it created this undercurrent criminal element in New Mexico. So, Andrea Gunderson, out of Lee Knives, who's dad was a admiral in the Navy or some big thing, I think. And as you'll notice, right a week after I say something about one of my little situations with being essentially held captive on a ship that had an extremely deep swimming pool, I didn't put together that it was an amphibious assault vehicle ship. So now all the admirals from the amphibious assault just got fired. That was about 3 weeks ago. Nobody talks about it. Nobody gets that whenever you fire every single leader in a whole fleet, that's supposed to be news. It's supposed to be questions, supposed to be a thought process as to why. Nothing. So we go on, and then right around like 22 years old or 23, after I moved down to Cruces, I got essentially on the dean's list, but Professor Worm and Dr. King both apparently made grade change errors, so I didn't make the dean's list. And if I had made the dean's list, I'm pretty sure I would have been considered schizophrenic. So sometime around, so what my mental situation became, and this was well known, well documented, was that if I had a sexual situation with a girl, like had sex with a girl, I would not remember. All right, it was like it got put in my adult data bank and not in my youthful data bank. The very few sexual situations that I happen to remember all happen to be with girls who seem to be doing something evil to me. So that was like the 6 girls that I remembered. From 19 years old is whenever I thought I lost my virginity, which is a joke to every single high school person, because here I was having sex with girls in high school, not knowing that I was having sex with them, not understanding that the next day, whenever the girl came up to me at school, was like, "You don't remember what happened last night? Nah, how are you doing? Yeah, didn't you? I thought everything was cool. Why are you so mad at me?" Nah, it just got bizarre. So they started this whole plot to steal insanely large amounts of money from me back whenever I was even 15, 16, 17. I also wrote Harry Potter, book 3, wrote that in 7th grade for 7th grade Frank Amano's writing class. I just played Dungeons and Dragons by myself and just wrote the book because wizards kept dying to anything, so I created a school where they would get to 12th grade, which was 12th level. I wouldn't have to do any kind of experience points to level up my characters, and I was just rolling the dice. I mean, there were literally dice rolls on the side of the manuscript or book or story that I wrote, and he gave us a writing assignment, write as much as you want. So I wrote front and back of a 70-page spiral notebook. He said, "This is amazing, this is great." Then my mom moves to England in 1991, and she writes it with J.K. Rowling. Everyone knows that book 3 is completely different from all the other books, and it's right out of Dungeons and Dragons. 2nd edition, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, even like the Philosopher's Stone is out of the DM guide, but I think it's called the Philosopher's Rock or something. And so this gets weird. All right, so now I'm a billionaire 2 different ways, and then plus I have a Bitcoin situation that I never really followed through with, don't really understand, and never used Bitcoin. And then I also have an Apple computer situation where I put $50 on right whenever I was turning 18, right whenever I had turned 18. I think that summer is whenever 97 is the summer that that Apple computers released the iPod. So they were literally going to go bankrupt if the iPod didn't hit. And so the stock was as low as you can imagine. So E-Trade did a $50 free stock thing or free money thing if you signed up for E-Trade. Just free money, $50 if you sign up for E-Trade. So I did it, put it all on Apple computers, put it at a 9-to-1 margin, put it at a high yield, which means they go long on all the bets. And anytime I would cash out on the long bets, I put 50% into stock. Very simple. 3 buttons to do that on E-Trade. So as you can imagine, whenever stocks do exponential growth like that, and you have it set up to where you're already getting 9-to-1, plus you're doing another 9-to-1, I'm getting $100 every 10,000% markup on the $50 every year. So if you can imagine, that just went on and on and on, and so I ended up owning an insanely large amount of Apple shares. Okay, so 22, my idiot dad gets in a boat wreck. He drives a boat through a houseboat, and then somehow he was able to pawn off that I did it. I was sitting there in the back of the boat, had a wonderful night there, right? Call me. And I see him. We're going down what's called the Narrows at Lake Powell, Arizona. And there's a, it's called the Narrows because it's narrow. And the waves, it also has kind of rocks that go up. So the waves go up on the rocks and then they come back in. So it creates a lot more waves than if you just had it going onto a beach and dispersing the energy. So we're going through the Narrows, and there's a houseboat coming straight across, and from a mile away, I could see that my dad was thinking this. I could just, he had that bizarre, pathetic, hateful look of, I'm going to do something crazy. And sure enough, so right at the last second, I mean, me and Ernie Nellis are yelling, move, 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 or turn, turn, turn. I mean, he didn't check his sixes at all. So that's one thing. So then right at like the last half second, 2 seconds before we were about to hit, I jump up and he has his hand gripped as tight as he could be, his muscles gripped, and I tried to jerk it, but he was standing up and he held it like this, so there's no possible way I was going to be able to move the wheel. And the only reason I turned it, obviously, to turn it left to go to the back end, because the ship's going forward this way, and we just go right through it. So the guy pulls out. I talked to the guy. I was like, "Hey, was anybody in there?" He's like, "No." And my dad was like, "Well, he can't be going through the center of the channel like that. That's on him. That's illegal." And so it proves that he meant to hit him. Everybody kind of misses that because he was able to twist it on me that I came up and tried to take over the captain's chair, and that's why he did it, which is disgusting. We were already going to hit. There was nothing I could do besides just jam on the wheel as hard as possible. And there's no way that he was letting that happen. So if his story was correct, he would have been checking his sides, checking his back, because then he's trying to say that I was trying to take control and I was going to run us into somebody else. Ridiculous. So at some point, the guy pulls out a gun, a rifle, shoots me in the head. I think he was aiming for my dad. And so then I have a bullet in my head. I'm sitting there kind of confused. My dad, I had already talked some smack to my dad, been talking smack for like 30 seconds or a minute with a guy listening in the houseboat who was just kind of floating along with a huge hole in the center of it. Boat went right through it. Kind of jumped up and so then my dad slams a glass shard in my head because he doesn't want me to bleed in the boat. That's what I'm dealing with. So then I get back to Cruces. I make friends with Mark Howell, Scotty Crago, which are both going to be FBI agents, and they both moved up and lived up in Farmington. Mark Howell got busted for giving somebody cocaine, and they had a brain aneurysm and they died. At least that was his story. So that was probably the reason he got caught up trying to be my friend, pretending to be my friend. He also had a kid, Nathan Howell, which is clearly appears to be missing because he's not on any of his Facebook pictures or his Instagram pictures. And Nathan was probably one of my kids. So now you know why I'm pissed. That the Katie Sepich murder happened after that incident too. Perhaps. Yes, it did. So then Mark Heil takes me on a hike without Nathan, which was the only time we'd ever done that. And it seemed like it was a day hike, but it turned out it was like a 5-day or 6-day hike. So we went on the hike. He's wiping my memory the whole time. I see things that I wasn't supposed to see. I come out. I take pictures of this mound of dirt. Go touch it, Ryan. Take a picture of that. Take a picture of that. And it looks gross, disgusting. And I'm like, this doesn't look natural. What the hell? And I go up and there's an eyeball and it moves. So I freak the fuck out. And I know Mark knows what's going on. So we get back to the truck and I'm like speeding back. I'm like, damn, I got to take a crap, telling him that. Drop him off. And this was after a week of having my memory robbed. Go to my house, jump right back in the truck 5 minutes later, go 100 miles an hour past the checkpoint trying to get them to follow me, pull into a gas station off the right side of the road, steal a guy's truck because I didn't have gas. He had a gun under the seat, and I knew he did, an old boy, and get his truck, zoom up to the hiking trail where that guy was at. I get the guy out out of the dirt, he's pissed off, and that's what I did. I filled a water canteen. Start giving him the water canteen. I have the guy's gun. I give it to him. I say, hey, man, you want to shoot me for that shit? Listen to my situation. I had to, because I figured if my little sociopath friend was watching me, so of course my memory gets wiped after this situation too. But I give the guy the gun, and I don't remember what was on the trail, but I do remember now the flashback of walking down the trail and seeing women that were really attractive with a bunch of guys. Well, why don't we go hang out with them? It sounds like you know them. No, just keep going. And I was like, zombied out, couldn't even talk. And so I didn't remember this at the time, but I was like, fuck this, I'm running to the hills. And as we're doing this, as we're having this conversation, I hand him the gun. I said, a female, really attractive female pulls up. She has a gun on her hip. And I was like, dude, you better be able to trust her, man, because I don't know if I can trust her. And like, it doesn't mean I'm gonna cap her, but it just means I'm pay attention to what just happened. So I gave him the gun, and I was like, I'm running to the hills, man. I'm gonna try to find these goddamn motherfuckers, and I'm gonna start laying into them. See if anybody else is up there. See if I see anybody else in these kind of mountains. So I run up to the hills. Sure enough, as I'm running, I heard 2 gunshots. So that guy probably got killed. Either that or the girl got killed, and he was a part of the whole situation. I don't know. So I get up, and first thing I do is I walk around, and this girl's name, I believe, is Nicole T, and she's on Twitch and Instagram, the Nicole T, and Exo Ariel, and then the third girl that's between them on one of the pictures is the girl that I'll get to. All right, so I come around the tree, and I see these 2 girls naked, tied up to trees, in between trees, not tied up to the trees. They have like ropes going to their arms, and I think their legs were tied together. They weren't like spread out. But so Nicole T, I believe, was like getting furious because I wouldn't cut her out. I was like, fuck, I don't even know how to get you out. I can't get it off. I don't know what to do. And we were looking at her, the third girl that was in the middle, of the picture, was about to get raped on the hood of a white Blazer of some kind, white big truck. And there was another truck over here that was like some other truck. Huh, that's weird, because we did look for keys. Okay, so I was like, nah, the only fucking way I can get all 3 of you out of here, or any of you out of here, or any of us out of here is, I was like, first off, how many guys are there? Well, there's 5. 3 of them are off getting firewood, so it's only these 2 morons. So I was like, all right, fuck this, I'm gonna kill these guys. She gets pissed. Cut me the fuck out of the tree right now, you stupid asshole. And like, so I sneak around the one truck, and the guy's sitting here facing the rape situation on the other truck that's just about to start happening. I mean, she's stripped, and like, the guy's doing all this little disgusting stuff. Hello? Alright, well, just so you know,